what's going on? It's your boy Travis, Horror Movies Uncut, Submissions and Slashers. You guys remember around April, we were up in Kansas City and we stopped by Panic Fest, not only to see our film, our friend Jill Six's new film, Ghost Game, and Azrael, and all these other films. There was this other movie that we were told we had to check out. Now, here's the thing. First and foremost, as a young black man growing up in St. Louis, Missouri, if there is one hip hop group I hate and despise, it is the Insane Clown Posse. I remember my white friends coming up to me being like, man, forget Wu-Tang Clan, Dr. Dre, all them dudes you listen to, they ain't got nothing on ICP. And I remember being like, what the heck is ICP? But we had this wonderful station called Channel 58 that if people called in, they could request music videos over and over and over. And sometimes you would get the same videos playing for like an hour. And one video used to play over and over and over, and it was called The Great Malenko. And it had these two crazy, insane looking clowns. And then I finally figured out what my boys were talking about. I was finally introduced to the Insane Clown Posse. So, Nathan, John, Scott, how were you all introduced one by one to the Insane Clown Posse?
Well, I guess I was first introduced. I remember buying a maxi cassette single of Who's Going Chicken Hunting when I was a teenager.
Oh God, that's the other video they played over and over.
And I just I saw this thing and it was like, what is this clown rap? You know, this is like a crazy thing. And I remember just kind of thinking it was like a pretty funny thing, but that was my first introduction to it.
Okay, Scott, what about you?
I had no introduction to it really before I got into this.
Are you serious?
I had seen that movie Family that came out in 20, but I thought that was made up. I didn't know it was real.
You're like, there's no way people are living like this.
And then find out it was a process of joy, and I'm grateful I got to do it.
Okay, but now, John, you have a music background, man, right? Like you played drums, you've been in metal groups and stuff like that. I'm a metal background kid myself, used to be a lead singer in a metal band. Like what, like we were the guys who fought the Insane Clown Posse kids most of the times. So what was your like introduction? Were you a Juggalo?
I was not a Juggalo. I did have 2 or 3 of the albums. I had a shirt. I was into like any kind of music that pissed my parents off pretty much.
Oh yeah, I feel you there. I feel you there.
Rage Against the Machine, Limp Bizkit, Godsmack. My parents saw the video for, I think it was Chicken Hunting. I was like, oh, I gotta have that album. They're just like, oh, Jesus, John. So I knew about the music. I liked the music. I'm into all that alternative shit, but I didn't know anything about the subculture and how like seriously they take it. You know, it's not all about the music for them. It's something totally different.
It's so much more,
you know, to find out. Yeah.
It's exactly what you've seen in Grateful Dead and Fish families. There's a music band out of my backyard called Mattahoochee that's kind of in that world of the Grateful Dead and stuff. So they get these followers that are actually living a life, and it's not really just the music. And it's so crazy because I didn't want anything to do with this movie. I was like, I'm not gonna watch it. I just kept telling myself, don't even go watch it, because of how much I knew I had this distaste. But what you get from this movie to me is almost the same thing that I got the first time I watched Gummo. It was like, you remember that there is this culture of people out living this lifestyle, and you want to be engaged with them because they're not that different from you and I at the end of the day. So, Scott, I'm gonna start off with you when I ask this particular question. Like, when you were introduced now to this world of the Juggalos, what was one of the first things that stuck out to you that was surprising about this community of the Juggalos?
The love, man.
Yeah.
Like so, you know, I love.
And Silas is all about the love too in the movie, which is great. So,
heart, you know, in my life, I'm all about a pride parade. I'm all about what pride represents.
Right.
I'm going because I love the love. And I was sitting there going, this feels like a pride parade, but it's not LGBTQ. This is like, this is something else. It's the same love. and I knew I was onto something I would love when I found.
To piggyback on that, I mean, the success of people like you and Hunter, like you got, like y'all are killing it out here, and I love it. Like, but to me, like the Juggalos almost are one of those communities of representations where the trans community was like always allowed to be themselves in that. Did you get a chance to dig in a little research on how the two communities intersect with the Juggalos?
Well, yeah, I would say in my research, I actually experienced that because, the trans community is often misrepresented in
Mm-hmm.
media. And I could
Mm-hmm.
tell that the way that Juggalos were being represented, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know what was true or not, but I could tell that it was often misrepresented.
Yeah.
And so it was very cool to get to do what I do in the rest of my life, which is do better representation, tell better trans stories. To be able to do that for Juggalos
Right.
felt really awesome.
That's amazing. That's
And
amazing.
and
Nathan,
just to
what? Yeah,
touch
go
on
ahead.
that real quick. Sorry,
Yeah, go ahead.
just to touch on that. I mean,
For sure.
I met a trans juggalo at the gathering when I went in 21, and really, sent them the script and like spoke to them and said, it was really like, is this authentic? Help me make sure that this is right. Is this
Amazing.
something that do you feel like we're doing the right thing here? And it wasn't just, it's for everyone. We wanted that to be for everybody, for juggalos, for trans folk, for non-juggalos. Like we wanted everybody to sort of like get to make sure that it fit in there. And so just to back that up, it was great.
That's great. And I'm glad you backed that up too, because my next question was for you on what is the reason, Nathan, that this story needs to be told? Especially right now, I mean, like think of how, even though these communities, like I was talking to one of my clients in the gym today, and she was talking about a friend of hers was just posting their photos from the most recent meetup. And I'm like, they're still going on. Like, it's crazy. But when you look at the society now, I have a 16-year-old son who's stuck on his phone and tablet all day. Like, you think that maybe these worlds are disappearing because everyone's kind of going into this meta world. But Nathan, for you and John, I'll have you piggyback on him. Why are stories like this important right now? Why is Off Ramp important, this story to be told right now?
I mean, I think that the world needs off ramp now more than ever. I mean, I think that the world, especially this country, and is so individualistic and so selfish. Like we're just so driven towards individualism and like a lack of community and a lack of acceptance and a sort of like me first kind of attitude. And I think that this film, one of the things that I say is somebody asked me about it, and I said, one thing that I'm very excited about this film is that I'm like, bring your prejudices, bring your biases. We will take your biases.
Yes,
like, please bring them to our film and watch, and then afterwards, if you really truly feel the same way, okay, fine, but at least you gave it a shot. And I think that this film just really does say some really solid things about some folk, and this says, hey, you know what, like we all deserve acceptance. Whoever you are, you deserve to be accepted, you deserve 100%. To be treated like a human, and you deserve to be treated authentically.
Love that. John, what about you?
Yeah, the main thing is just don't judge. I mean, I've talked about it before. People are not just judging Juggalos. People judge the poster of our movie. They say, I don't want to see a movie about Insane Clown Posse. I don't even listen to them. Don't judge it, man. Don't judge anything. Don't judge these people. Don't judge our movie, because it's not just about that. And those Juggalos are not just about Insane Clown Posse. It's about so much more. So don't see our poster and say, I don't like ICP. I don't need to see that movie.
Right. Yeah, no, and I'm here to piggyback on that notion, because I was one of those people, and it's my job to watch these movies.
I was too, reading the script. I was like, how am I going to do this for 30 days? I don't really like ICP that much, but it ain't about that, man.
I think the great thing about where we are in this time frame with social media is you get to hear the reactions when people instantly see the film, and then that starts to kind of drive the narrative in a different direction, because it is so much more than just a film about this weird little subculture that some people know about, some people don't. This movie is about family. It is about love. It's about fresh ass freestyles and stuff like that. So it's amazing to see that. I think, Nathan, what you guys do is you really tap into that, like the children. Like I always say, there is a generation of children that grew up on syndicated culture. Like our parents watched soap operas like the All My Children's and all those things of the world, but the kids grew up watching Kung Fu, Godzilla, monster movies, and a lot of the movies we grew up watched had a lot of clowns in there. So it made a lot of sense when you would see a group like the Insane Clown Posse come out. How they were able to stay so relevant, I mean, it baffles me. But one thing that I want to ask you guys, and like I could truly sit down and have a couple drinks with you guys and talk to you about this film, because it is a film that sparks just so much great conversations. But it's such a great buddy movie. And I think that's one of the things that people don't really realize when they're stepping into it, because they are kind of coming in the notion of the music and what that did and how that kind of relayed to them in their past and childhood. Where honestly, I mean, you like Scott, tell me about you and John's work together. What are some of the things that you guys did off script to kind of keep this bond going? Because Silas and Trey, they are dudes we all grew up with. They might be our cousin. They might be us. And that's what you find out throughout the course of the film. So whenever I see this type of a bond between two characters, I'm always curious. All right, man, what did y'all do? Did we have a pillow fight? I mean, I don't care. Like, what did y'all do? Like, what did you guys do to did you guys actually go do some Juggalo stuff? Like, what did you guys possibly do to keep this bond together that works so well on the screen?
I mean, we were so lucky because it honestly very truly came naturally. Like, I love John the second that I started hanging out with him. And I think if we did anything to bond, it was we got our hair done together. Like, we got
yes, together. Hair done, nails done, everything.
So we got to sort of become the characters together. But it was, we found out we're born a day apart. Oh. Like, we have a lot in common in other ways, but it was just there, and we both just let it be there and went with it, and took it as far as we could.
Okay, John, what about you? What's some of the things you remember during that interaction?
Yeah, it just came so easily. I don't know if the characters were much different, if it would have been harder, but as two guys that like to just smoke and drink and let loose, right. I feel like secretly down deep, it's like, Scott, how much acting are you doing, or how much of like a psycho did you used to be? And like me, like you said, I used to tour with a metal band, so that brought me back to like the road tripping, smoking, drinking all the time. So it wasn't that far of a stretch for me, but there is so much time with Scott. Right. It's just. I knew so much of the movie depended on that, because we have so much screen time that you can be as open as you want to. I told myself, like, I'm going to be best friends with this person no matter what. Turns out it was very easy to do with Scott. That's Day awesome. One, it was like, I'm not worried about this at all. Sometimes you have a scene partner that you don't like, and you see him for 20 days in a row, and it's a lot of acting to pretend like you like that person. It's exhausting, and it's all right there. But Scott made it so easy.
Go ahead, Scott.
We hung out all the time too. We didn't go to like our separate trailers, like we hung out, and we would often, John had a car, so he would drive us back, at night, and we were just all together all the time. So it just kind of was very natural and organic.
Nathan, two talented people, great chemistry, working with each other. What are you able to do in this? Do you just sit back and let them work, or like, how much do you allow them to really be themselves with these roles in a film like this?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do anything,
writing all of our words.
I'm just kidding. No, I mean, one, like, absolutely, like, credit to both these folks. It's like, what a funny thing to say, hey, here's two strangers, now be best friends for life. And they did so. And not only that, but we all, as a crew and a group, like, have formed this like real honest bond.
Y'all are all ninjas for life now, just ninjas for life, all of y'all.
Absolutely. But it's truthfully, it's a very interesting thing, because as actors, John and Scott are very different. You know what I mean? Like, John is the guy who basically he just does what he does, and he doesn't ask you any questions. And that's one thing. And then Scott even told me right when we first like started working, Scott was like, I ask questions. He's like, I want you to direct me. And that was actually like, it was kind of a challenge for me in a way. But it ended up working out, and I was very really pleased with that. And I think for myself, it was a really great journey and experience to have both of them have different acting styles, because
Mhm.
it then, you know, forced me to make sure that it was all kind of like working together, and in the end it did, and so it was a very interesting thing, but yeah, I mean, really just really lucky to have such great talent and such a great fun, and I do think that part of it comes from, we all were trying to do something, like we knew the script, we were trying to do something kind of noble, hopefully, and do
Mhm.
something and try to shed some light on some folks who could use a little light on them.
For
And
sure.
I think that really, you know, brought a lot of people's heart to it, because a lot of people wanted to contribute, because they knew the script was trying to do something, you know, worthwhile.
Right, right. So I normally don't ask myself this question because this is the one I ask you guys, but I'm gonna ask myself the question first because I think it's important to say. What I hope that people take away from Off Ramp is that this film starts kind of like a Rocky Horror Picture Show, where when every time it's getting screened someplace, you got people dressing up like people who, like, I dress up like a juggalo, you know what I mean? And go see this. So for me, I hope that there's legs like this on a film like this, because I think it deserves it. John, starting with you, Scott follow, Nathan finish up. What's one thing you hope people take away from Off Ramp after they see it?
I just want people to be surprised. By judging the poster, I want them to go into it thinking one thing and come out thinking another. It sounds like we have surprised people so far. I think that's a beautiful thing. Everything's the same now. Turn on something on Netflix, just like, I know how this is going to end. I'm going to turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
I hope people don't know anything. I mean, this one's hard to pin down and hard to know what's coming, which I think is a beautiful thing. I like being surprised in the theater. So
Yeah, for sure.
that's what I hope.
Scott, what about you?
I hope people come out either renewed or invited into a sense of unconditional love for themselves and other people. I hope that's what they get from this.
That's great. That's great. Nathan, rounding it up, what we want to take away?
You know, I mean, I hope that people get a little bit of check on their biases and the things that they've sort of felt like before that they bring in, and that I hope that people, you know, come away from it feeling like, you know, maybe I've misjudged some people. I think, you know, I had one of the great compliments after this film screened at New Orleans Film Festival. A young man came up to me and said, you know, watching Off Ramp made me want to be a nicer person. And I said, well, how can I? You can't improve on that. I mean, that's
This
just
best
the
review ever.
Greatest gift. So.
That's awesome. Well, I'm hoping everybody walks out of that theater a better person after they see Off Ramp. Thank you all so much. This movie is a gem. It's a treat. And I have been pushing the envelope on this movie because, like I said, I'm from a neighborhood and community where the last thing they want to hear is anything about ICP, but I am making everyone I know watch this movie. So best of luck with Off Ramp, and best of luck with everything you all have coming up in the future. Talk to you again soon, okay?
Thank you very much. Thanks for shouting out. Thanks for shouting out Gummo. That's a huge compliment for us.
Oh, that's what's
also,
up.
Yes, and also it'll be keep playing at Kansas City September 6th at Screenland Armor for like a whole week. So yeah, so